We are ready, Master.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Okay, today we continue with the Chan instruction from Master YongHua that he explained a long time ago. But what he taught is really very profound, very sound Chan training techniques. So it's a pleasure to be able to investigate them with you. I think I listened to this a long time ago, but it's not as, the sound is not as good, and I didn't have the proper transcription. So I'm very grateful for your help in making this happen. All right, Wei Mountain has a question.
Master, this question is from Korea. It's from Ipjang. For unnecessary thoughts, isn't the lesser the better? When I recite Buddha's name or mantra, it is nice that my scattered thoughts disappear. Previously, I heard that concentrating on object will help to increase samadhi power. Then, instead of reciting Buddha's name, may I use the samatha or vipassana meditation, which is as same as calming the mind and contemplating the mind?
Okay, good question. I used to be confused about that as well, because I came from the Chan angle. I was more primarily interested in practicing Chan. I was forced to do Pure Land at my master's temples. So I struggled a lot and didn't quite know what to do. So I experimented a lot of things, including what you just said. However, you should not confuse the two. When we practice Mahayana, you learn to practice all Dharma doors, meaning that each Dharma door has its own peculiarities, has its own advantages, disadvantages. And for you to combine samatha with reciting Buddha's name is not really necessary at all. All you have to do for the Pure Land Dharma door is very simple. You concentrate on reciting Buddha's name all day, all the time. And even when you're not reciting, let's say our Chanchi, you go to the toilet, you go to eat, you still recite silently as you train to do. Okay, you should recite the Buddha's name. Never mind about samatha, never mind about vipassana and so forth. Those are not necessary at all. Okay, because the Pure Land Dharma door, the reciting the Buddha's name Dharma door, has its own purposes, has its own characteristics. You are imagining new things and trying to combine different techniques. They're okay, they work, but this is not the purpose of the reciting Buddha's name Dharma door at all. So I would advise you against it. It's not necessary to do that. Simply recite the Buddha's name. Keep reciting and exclude everything else. And as you recite long enough, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days at our Chanchis, you experience the state and you begin to understand more. That's all. Okay? It's not... It's different from the Chan Dhamma door, especially samatha and vipassana. It's totally different. Vipassana, for example, is different, and samatha is also different. It's not. The technique is quite different. So don't confuse the two. Okay. Anyone else? So basically, my advice to you is, this is why we have a Fochi before Chanchi. The Fochi is sort of a more gentle way of preparing you and preparing all of us to do a Chanchi. So it's a very useful technique that you should know that you will find very useful down the road when you understand Pure Land or when you understand chant. Okay, so don't combine them for now. Okay, there's no need. From my own experience, the two Dharma doors are different for different purpose, and the training is different, and it's best that you separate the two. And when you get a little bit higher up there, then you will see that the two Dharma doors actually converge. All Dharma doors converge at the top. So that's why Master Xinhua, even though he's not a Chan specialist, he's more like a Tantra specialist. So in other words, he knows more about Tantra than the Tibetans, for your information. But he got to the top of the Tantra school, and that's why he could understand Pure Land, and he could understand China as well. So there's no need to combine the two at all. It's ill-advised for you to do that, because then you miss out on the difference Dharma doors that you're supposed to learn. Okay, we'll continue with the story of these great sages that Master Xinhua introduced to us. The intention is for us to hear about these great men. And in Chinese culture, they're taught that when you see a worthy and a sage, you should try to be the same as they are. Okay? In other words, the Chinese wisdom is very much in sync with the Buddhist wisdom. Buddhist wisdom is that we want to, how we say about the Buddha? We want to use the Buddha as a role model. Okay, in Buddhist teaching, we teach by example. Buddha's taught by example, patriarchs as well. And in particular, this Chanchi, I can't stop lauding enough the role model that Master Xinhua set for us as monks, as patriarchs. That the second patriarch falls far short, or most monks of us fall far short of his example. So we have lots to, we have to try harder. So this particular monk here, we know is from India, and so it's a story by an Indian monk. And as I said, he's early days of Buddhism, and so this is not internet competition and confusion from internet information. So he's pretty easy. He could simply go out and teach people when he was, his skill level is not that high, okay? Basing his teaching on the sutras and the texts primarily. But it's, if you're an emperor, and you are looking at solving your problems, quite often these people will find solutions to their state affairs by listening to the Buddhist sutras, reading Buddhist sutras, or consulting with the monks as well. Okay, and one particular reason is that these monks, they're monks because they have enough blessings to be emperors and kings for many lifetimes. They were emperors and kings, so it's not uncommon for the monks to be teachers of emperors and kings at all. Okay, so this particular man, particularly monk here, Guna, Varna, or something like that, he was born to a royal family. His grandfather was the king of what country again? In India, and then the grandfather wasn't very good of a king, so they got forced out. So his father, this monk's father, had to run away to live in the boonies, in the mountains, in the forests. But this man here, young boy here, decided to become a monk at the age of 20. And so he shaved his head and he started teaching immediately. So that tells you that it's not a whole lot of competition. Not many people understood or knew about the Buddha Dharma. The texts weren't that widely available. So how can you be at the age of 20 who really have no life experience, has no real formal training, no real Chan training at all? Clearly, Chan training takes time. You don't just do it for most people. And but he became a monk, and then later, at the age of 30, 10 years later, the Bibin country king died, and he was chosen to be the next successor. So they tried to talk him into becoming an emperor. Typically, for ordinary people, for most people, the temptation is just too much because they don't have enough blessings. But when you have enough blessings like this monk, he said, no, I'm not interested. Okay? Just like when you have $100 in your pocket, you're not going to get excited over 1 penny you look on the sidewalk. Okay? So that's the reason. So he continued to be a monk. He ran away, and he arrived at a different country. And the mother of the emperor believed him because she had a dream, a very peculiar dream. And the next day, this monk's boat docked into the port. And she said, oh, that's the premonition. She was a follower of his. And therefore, he got a lot of support from the royal patronage, which is more or less required for you to propagate the Dharma back then. Okay, back then, you really want to propagate the Dharma, and you need royal patronage, because the money and the wealth and the power in a handful of people. Unlike nowadays, where we have a lot more wealth, it's more spread out, more democratic societies. And so, anyway, she believed, she received the 5 precepts from this monk, and she cultivated, she learned a lot from him. And so one day, that's where we're at right now, tonight. One day, the mother talked to the son, the emperor, and she says, I love you dearly, but I'm concerned because I believe in Buddhism, you don't. And therefore, we're growing in separate directions, and that's a concern for me. And if we keep growing in the different directions, we probably will disconnect eventually. And that's the nature of all relationships. The conditions arise, they come together, and they stay together, and eventually they part. And so when you're together, you want to avoid going different directions. You make sure that you're investing into the proper thinking, the proper understanding, and developing your wisdom. Right. So the mother is going in the Buddhist thing, and the son wasn't. He was more into non-Buddhist stuff. Okay. And so the emperor, so she basically gently twisted his arm, emperor's arm, and said, well, if you love me, you better reconsider. And of course, the emperor loved his mother, so he switched. He said, okay, I will take the 5 precepts. So I'm at 168. Anyone has any questions? Now, This guy wasn't Buddhist, emperor wasn't Buddhist, and he became Buddhist because his mother twisted his arm gently, albeit. And then he says, okay, I take the 5 precepts. Okay. And he's allowed to take the 5 precepts immediately. And to me, that doesn't make sense. How can you, as a monk, let an emperor take the 5 precepts? First of all, the first precept is no killing. Okay? Emperor must kill people. Agree or disagree? How are they going to fear you if you don't kill them? The emperors are supposed to have a power of life and death over the citizens. That's why they're afraid of emperor. Emperor power it cannot be questioned. It comes with the power of life and death over you. And so how could you give an emperor the 5 precepts which prohibits you from killing a being, killing a human? That doesn't make sense. And this is a problem when your disciple is an emperor, he says, I want to take a 5 precepts, and most of us tend to be the last person to say no to an emperor. Yes? So anyway, we took the 5 precepts from Guna Varman. No killing, no stealing, sexual conduct, no lying, no intoxication. Okay? So a problem immediately, killing. Emperors need to kill in order to rule, especially you bandit. Some such people, they only fear death. They fear torture. They fear being harmed. That's important to keep them in line. Okay, so it's weird that he has no killing, no stealing. Okay, fine. I will not comment on stealing from emperors. I am no emperor, so I shouldn't comment on that. No sexual misconduct. Okay, we skip that as well. Okay, you can use your imagination. I don't have to talk about this. But no lying. Come on, emperors lie through their teeth. Huh? Don't you think so? How can emperors be truthful? Doesn't it bother you? As a monk said, your disciple comes, your emperor comes, I like to take the precept of non-lying. And he's going to lie. He's lying through his teeth. Everything he tells you. He's an emperor. He doesn't have to tell the truth. For these emperors, I don't know you've been an emperor or not, but emperors, they twist the truth according to their likings. Yes? That's why they're called emperors. You see? So the no lying doesn't make sense to me. Totally. Okay? Not to mention no stealing, no sexual misconduct. That's unreasonable for emperors. What about no intoxication? Are you kidding me? You see, so again, I really struggle with these stories because it seems like such a long time ago, and it's funny that Master Shuhan disciples at the time, 1970s, those hippies and those dope heads, they didn't dare ask him such questions. It would bother me. I said, wait a minute, no intoxication? You mean I can't drink? You got to be kidding. The empress, have you ever drank the better wine, the better alcoholic beverages? They're fantastic. So anyway, I find it hard to believe that a monk could administer the 5 precepts of the emperor just like that. So what does it tell you about the relationship between the teacher and the disciple? The disciple tells the teacher what he wants. Okay? But those are the times. And this is one of the caveats for you in the future who wish to have an emperor as disciple. That's all. Okay. So the emperor receives the 5 precepts, And originally didn't have much interest in Buddha Dharma and so forth, a long time, and this is not a shock for me. I assure you, this is not what these thoughts didn't go through when I first time I heard of these stories, but I understood them at all. But now I look at this again, and thank you for allowing me this privilege. I find it weird, too, that this monk here is a teacher, an emperor. He's only first stage arhat. Seriously? You're first stage arhat? And you go around teaching Buddhism? What do you know about Buddhism when you're first stage arhat? It's so strange. But anyway, in my opinion, first stage arhat is pretty stupid. The sages in the Hinayana world, the first Mahayana world, they basically are infants in terms of wisdom. Okay? Yeah, so I would not learn Buddhism from a first stage arhat unless I'm desperate. Anyway, so he explained a lot of things to this emperor here, and the emperor bought into it. Good thing. But I doubt that he would believe in the 5 precepts. Okay? It's not possible for an emperor to take the 5 precepts. I don't know about you, but nowadays I don't find it possible. Anyone disagrees with me? What is the matter with you? Are you all sheeps or what? So he says, he liked the Buddha Dharma. Another shock for me. Okay? He says, the Buddha Dharma is truly wonderful beyond words. How come I didn't investigate the Buddha Dharma earlier? This is an emperor who cannot keep the 5 precepts, and he finds the Buddha Dharma wonderful beyond words. He doesn't have the wisdom that has the samadhi power. He doesn't have the real blessings to understand. And what he understood when he said these words to me is basically Hinayana stuff. There's no way he could understand Mahayana concepts. Okay? So anyway, see how easy it was to teach. Hey, boys and girls, we have a time machine and go back, in those times. We make a fortune. We can have temples and everywhere. It would be so much easier. And he believed more and more in the Buddha Dharma, and he said, I owe this all to my mother. Mother knows best. I agree. Yeah. And he's very happy. But in cultivation, when you cultivate, you're supposed to have trouble. You're supposed to have challenges. You're supposed to have difficulties. If you want to have a good time, you won't have any difficulties. You have no trouble at all until you're older, and then or until a lot later. Then when your body breaks down, that's when you know it's too late to change. But when you cultivate properly, you should have problems. And so he believed, and he was very happy. And he says, life is wonderful, Buddhism is wonderful, my life is great, mother is wonderful, I'm closer to my mother. Then trouble came. You two, go ahead.
From Chun, why did Master YongHua choose to talk about stories of arhats so much instead of bodhisattvas? Is that because the level of his students back then?
Not really. It's one reason, and the other reason is that he probably used these stories from some sort of books, some sort of materials he had. Remember, Master YongHua had the spiritual eye. Let's call it Dharma eye. Okay, just for the heck of it. So he could read these sources of records of the Sanghas and so forth. There are a lot of such records in the Chinese literature. They have a lot of records of different Sanghas, different generations, and so forth. And so I think he picked up these stories from those records. That's not available. That's not in print, if you will. So he used them as such. Let me be clear about this. I have my own perspective. I'm learning from this. I get bored if I follow Master YongHua. So I try to present you these stories from different perspective. From his perspective, as you said, during those times in 1970s, most of his disciples were pretty low level, and therefore they would not even dream of getting to first stage arhatship, and they're supposed to appreciate the first stage arhatship as sagehood, as Hinayana people deem them to be, and therefore it's reasonable for those people to look at these as role models. But unfortunately not for us. And therefore, now that we're talking about these stories, many of you are way beyond first stage arhats, and therefore it's not, I don't want to be unfair to you and just follow blindly what he is teaching his disciples. I feel that the story should be presented to you from a different perspective that's more suitable to your levels. That's all. Okay, I don't believe. I feel a little bit disappointed that his disciples weren't the types who would ask questions, would dare ask questions. Like nowadays, you have to be prepared for your listeners to ask you all sorts of questions, and they should be encouraged to ask all sorts of questions. Okay, for some reason, I don't know why they left out a lot of questions, or no one really asked questions at all. That really is disappointing to me. It shows that the people present didn't really catch on that much. Okay, that's all I know. Okay, so it depends. Yes, as you said, it depends on what level we're talking about. But however, even these stories, point number 3, even with these stories, even though they are not very high level, but it gives us some perspectives on lives back then, how difficult it was to propagate the Buddha Dharma, what it took, and so forth. So we learn a lot from that, and we glean a lot from these stories as well. You don't always need to learn from people higher than you. Well, you can learn from people lower than you. A lot more. There are a lot more of them. Okay, in Wei Mountain.
Master, I thought someone else was going to talk before me, but I guess not. I was just thinking about, as you were saying, the disciples of Great Master YongHua. I wonder, I never met Master YongHua, so I can only think that perhaps he was just such a phenomenal monk and good knowing advisor that I think I would be enraptured to be able to listen to him. Maybe I just wouldn't think of any questions.
Well, maybe it's your case, but I have a lot of questions when I listen to these stories. Because we need to really help relate the stories to the people in the audience. I don't want to come across as you are being sheepish and therefore you don't dare ask questions to me in fear that you're going to embarrass me. Then what happens is that Buddhism is being spread in the spirit of fear, in the spirit of being afraid to be embarrassed. We shouldn't be afraid. If we don't know, we say we don't know. That's all. We don't have to pretend to be someone or something we're not. You too, go ahead.
From Peter, Master, is it possible the blessings the emperor accrues by inspiring his people to become Buddhists more than make up for his inability to hold the precepts?
Yes, it is a case where the emperor can accrue a lot of blessings and help propagate Buddhism a lot quicker, sponsoring Buddhism so that it spreads quicker. However, he doesn't need to do that by receiving the 5 precepts. If I were the monk, Gunavarman, I would say, it's premature for you to take the 5 precepts. Why don't you give it some time? Why don't I speak to you about 5 precepts? Why you want to take the 5 precepts or why you don't want to take the 5 precepts? I tell you right now, you don't want to take the 5 precepts. You have to be honest with the emperor. Just because you're emperor, you shouldn't be afraid to tell him what you know, okay? So I'm against him giving the emperor the 5 precepts. That's wrong. So maybe this guy didn't understand the 5 precepts, okay? Maybe that's why. But I doubt that he would understand the 5 precepts, given the fact that he shaved his head at 20 and immediately started teaching Buddhism, meaning he didn't have time to learn the precepts. The only time he learned the precepts is much later when he ran away from his countrymen who asked him to be emperor. So he stayed in the mountains, away in the wilderness for about a few years, 5 years, 7 years maximum. Okay, but then in the wilderness, how on earth could he find materials to learn about the precepts? You see, so this guy really didn't understand precepts at all. And therefore, if you are using the standards we have nowadays, if you don't understand precepts, you're not supposed to transmit precepts. You better know what are about the precepts. I was very disappointed at my master's disciples transmitting the precepts to me without knowing what they mean, without being able to tell me how to practice the precepts. If you do that to me, I lose respect for you very quickly. You're a teacher, and I place my life in your hands, and you ask me to do certain things that compromises my life. And without knowing what you're doing, I would not trust you anymore. This is a problem I have. How dare you? This is my life. You're messing with my life. So this guy is typical people. They didn't receive training and they went and transmitted precepts because you're Buddhist, you're supposed to take the precepts. What kind of baloney is that? Precepts are just a Dharma door, another Dharma door. You don't need to take it. Many enlightened people don't take the 5 precepts. Lay people, they're enlightened, they don't take the 5 precepts. They drink. They, lie. So what's the big deal? You too.
From Addison, Brazil, when I recite Dajituo, I notice my pitch go from low to high or high to low. Also, my pace may go from fast to slow or slow to fast. Is there a correct pace and pitch for its recitation?
Just follow the recitation in our recordings. That's good enough. Don't worry about fast or slow. Just for you, since you're new to that, you should practice it. And then eventually down the road, much further down the road, you'll be taught how to use it. Okay? Don't worry about it now. Just follow along. Follow the recording that we have. Or if you tune in on the days where we have it live, would be even very good as well. So in essence, the speed doesn't matter right now for you. Okay? It's a matter of you concentrating on the recitation without getting distracted. That's all for now. Okay. So trouble came because he was cultivating, and that's typical. Expect trouble. And his neighbor king invaded him, and so he came to his master and said, I believe in Buddhism, now I believe in you, I'm a good person, people are taking advantage of me. Okay, what are you supposed to do when you're a monk? Your emperor disciple says, because I believe in you, now people are attacking me. Okay? In the past, when I didn't believe in Buddhism, my neighbor king would not dare go into war with me. Now I believe in Buddhism, he dare invade me. Okay? And now if he's invading me, if I fight him, I will kill many living beings. Seriously? I mean, right now he's not killing people like convicts, murderers. He cannot say that because his underlings, his judges, his officials are killing those people, punishing those people who keep them in line, such people in line. It still falls back to the emperor's head. Okay? So these stories have holes from my perspective. And I wish I could ask Master YongHua if I were there. Okay? I'm just surprised that no one ever asked him. And this is typical of the Asians. They don't dare ask questions because it's impolite. Okay, so the war will kill a lot of beings. But if I don't fight, I will lose my country. What should I do? So this first stage Arhat, wisdom is the country is invading you. So you can defend for yourself. But you should use compassion. Don't kill them. Okay? It's reasonable. If your property, you have the right to defend your property. Okay? But he says, defend with compassion. Don't kill such people. So you see the 5 precepts, okay? And he should have said, you see 5 precepts, and you didn't keep them anyway. I know you well enough, you didn't keep them anyway. But he's polite, so he says, so you go into war with a compassionate and merciful mind. It's a Beisin. Okay? With a kind and compassionate mind. Lian Min, okay? Lian Min is a merciful mind. Yeah, it's good. Do not have a angry mind, hateful mind. Okay, and so emperor listened to his advice, taught his armies to recite Namo Wanjin Bodhisattva of great compassion. And don't kill them and take pity on them. So they went to war, recite Wanjin's name. Now, can you imagine that you're a soldier? You're going to war where people are going to shoot at you with arrows before you see their eyes. Okay? Or what happened to your glass eye? What happened to your glass eye? Now you're wearing this thing here. Huh? Huh? You don't use glass eyes anymore? Oh, never mind. And so, can you imagine? And this, again, this story is a little bit too far-fetched for me. So, can you imagine you're a soldier, and you're a foot soldier, and you're a horse rider, and you're a lieutenant or captain, and you're taught by your general, I'm going to send you to war. Okay? I'm going to send you to the front line, and don't kill the enemy. Recite One Yin Bodhisattva's name. Can you imagine the Russians being taught that when they sent to the Ukraine? Would that work? Seriously? But amazingly, the soldiers did not desert, okay? and they went to war, and they recited One Yin's name. The enemy retreated without fighting. I don't understand this part of the story, because they're attacking the enemies, okay? And the enemy sat there, and when they're coming, they're not shooting arrows at them. They're not, shooting howitzers. They're not sending rockets. They're not sending drones at them. They just stood there waiting, and then when they see them close, they ran away. This is amazing. It's possible, but it's amazing in that a war can be fought that way. So it's a funny story in my mind, okay? You don't find it funny? No one is laughing. Good Lord. So anyway, the enemy retreated without fighting. Personally, I feel that the monk had to do something. Okay? How can you teach a soldier who doesn't believe in One Yin Bodhisattva and say, you recite One Yin Bodhisattva and you'll be unharmed? Okay? It's a little bit difficult for people in our era to buy into this. Okay? If you ever been to the front, Master old monk, Master Abbot, let me ask you, you believe this story? Would you send your soldiers to fight and say recite One Yin Bodhisattva's name? What's going to happen when you did that when you were fighting the war?
A Di Đà Phật, theo con nghĩ thì nó tùy thuộc cái nghiệp với cái phước báo của cái quân đội đó với ông vua đó. Mình không thể nói cứ ngắt là không được, mà cũng không thể nói là được. Mà trong kinh nói rõ ràng là trong quân trận đánh nhau, do xuất niệm Quan Âm cù quán đều lui tan. Thì có thể tin, có thể cũng không tin. Vì cái lời của Đức Phật luôn luôn là thật, nhưng mà cái áp dụng ở ngoài nó tùy cái nghiệp của hai bên, rồi của nhà vua nước đó, và cái quân đội bên kia nữa. Nên mình không có dám nói chắc chắn là như thế nào.
Master, I think this one, it depends on the blessing of the soldier and then also the other side, because we cannot just say it it definitely like that or this or that. And then, but I know like in the sutra, they say that
if you recite Guan Yin's name, and because of the power of the name, then it can help to overcome the enemy. So again, this really depends on the blessing of the king, of the soldier, of the country, and then we cannot say anything for sure.
Very good. Với mạo.
Master, this is the second time that I've heard that actually reciting Guan Yin Bodhisattva would have helped. The first situation is Venerable Shinchu. That taught me that during his lifetime, he recited Guan Yin Bodhisattva. He would not be able to kill the enemy, but actually help protecting him, guiding him through the war. And the second time is this story.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's what I think. It is true that in the Lotus Sutra, in chapter 25, Universal Door chapter, it says that you recite Wan Yin's name, and no harm can come to you when you're faced with people who try to harm you, such as yakshas and rakshasa ghosts and so forth. Even bandits who try to harm you, you can recite Wan Yin's name, and you'll be safe as well. And there's plenty of response stories in the Chinese records to demonstrate it's effective. It works, not only from the books, but also from many of you personally. I heard too many stories, yes? So it's true. So for that to happen, you actually only need one person. You don't need the entire army. Okay, so that's what I was, the point I was making is to lightheartedly point out to you that you don't need all the soldiers to recite the Wan Yin Bodhisattva's name. Okay, most likely it's that monk, Gunavarman, who recited Wan Yin's name. You only need one. He probably went to the battlefront and recited with the soldiers. And that's why it worked. Okay? The point I'm trying to tell you is that you cannot believe these things blindly. And for most cases, you need someone who has the blessings to be able to connect the Wan Yin, and clearly Gunavarman have connection. That's why it worked. Okay? But don't teach it lightly to people, because they're going to get in trouble. And they say, you are basically a bunch of people, blind faith. You just believe blindly. And that's detrimental to Buddhism. Yes, 8.
Master, would it work for an invading country to recite Guan Yin's name to invade another country?
I don't think Wan Yin protects aggressors. All that Universal Door chapter says is that when you're in trouble, you're about to be harmed, you need help, call Wan Yin because you're suffering. And Wan Yin will come to your rescue. Okay? It doesn't say that you're the aggressor, you're about to inflict harm on others. You call Wan Yin will come and help you. Well, it's a good way of thinking. That's interesting. So if it were true, then all we have to do is teach the Russians to recite Wan Yin, and they invade Ukraine, and they take over the entire country. Okay? Ukrainians will surrender, if you will. Okay? It doesn't quite work like that. Okay? And lots of factors, like the Master Abbot says. Absolutely, lots of things behind it. In my thinking is that it's this monk here who recited Wan Yin that helped, and plus a lot of factors involved as well. Okay, he probably got help because he's low level, but he probably got help from the Bodhisattvas and the Buddhas in order to do his very heroic work of Dharma propagation. When you sacrifice yourself, you take chances like that. you draw a lot of attention from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Okay? We're not alone, let me assure you. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas reward us for our personal sacrifices to come and protect us. There's a lot more going on, you think. To do Dharma propagation, it's like going to war with the demons and the deviant beings. And it's not you by yourself. We are not by ourselves. We get a lot of help ourselves. Help from lay people, help from the Buddhas, help from the Bodhisattvas, help from the Eightfold Divisions and so forth. A lot of help, let me assure you. We're not alone. So anyway, in this case here, they ran away without fighting, the invading Dharmians. They were frightened by their awesome virtue. Whose awesome virtue? 这种的威德, okay, awesome virtue. The foot soldiers. This is where I struggle with these Chinese stories. I'm too detailed, I guess. I'm too picky. How can soldiers have awesome virtues? Soldiers are foot soldiers. Okay? He's so frightened, they ran away, they lost, they were defeated. Yeah. So this awesome virtue is probably from the monk. Okay? Not from the generals, not from the captain, not from the colonels, not from the emperor, it's from that monk. Okay? But how can a first stage raha have awesome virtue? So it's got to be help from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So they were afraid, they ran away. So this clearly, they got help from Wan Yin. And the country is defeated, the invader were pushed back, but the emperor was injured by an arrow. Arrow injure his foot. He's probably saying, what happened to Wan Yin? She didn't protect me. And right there, if I were the emperor, I would have lost faith. I said, why did you protect the wrong people? I'm the most important person. How could you let me be shot by an arrow? But anyway, this monk is so blessed. The emperor never raised an eyebrow about this. Can you imagine, that you were shot by an arrow, you say, Master YongHua, what happened to me? I've been following you. How could you let this happen to me? I recited Wan Yin's name and you told me, and I got shot. So it's funny. So he was injured, he's happy when he returned. Okay. Yeah. And because he's victorious, okay, let's buy that. And use the great compassion mantra to bless the water. So you recite 108 times, by the way, okay? You recite. You want to give the great compassion mantra to water to people, recite 108 times, okay? And then, and wash his wounds, and lo and behold, 3 or 5 days later, he recovered. He was fine, didn't hurt anymore. That is impressive. Okay, so clearly, it's not him. The first stage Arhat cannot possibly do this. Okay, so clearly, and this is my main point here, we can make fun, we can question this, question that, laugh at this and laugh at that. But this is the main point here I'm trying to make to you, is that this monk here definitely got help from Wan Yin Bodhisattva in this particular instance. Okay? So he got help. So he believed, okay? Wan Yin Bodhisattva helped this Dharma master increase get more faith from his emperor disciples who won the war and he knew that Buddha Dharma is boundless, so he investigated Buddha Dharma every day. So I guess with this kind of miracles, even emperors were impressed, were intrigued. So after a wild investigation, so he investigated vigorously, meaning that at this point in time the emperor took it very seriously and he investigated with a lot of sincerity. He had some awakening. This awakening here is because he entered samadhi. This is where the people who read these stories don't understand. The awakening is from the samadhi. So he really worked hard. He really studied the books very vigorously. So it's not said here, but it should be understood that it's not coincidental. He suddenly had an awakening. He really worked hard. That's a requirement for him to have an awakening. I'm reminding you this because it's not for the emperor, but for you too. You want to have an awakening, you want to have some real deeper understanding of Buddhism, you have to work hard. It will not be given to you. So he's awakened, and this emperor said, I'm at slide number 200, to be an emperor, there's a lot of hassle. They call you about this, they call you about that, it's better to live the home life than be a monk. And then therefore, you won't have to deal with all this nonsense. Trouble, not trouble, mafan here. It's just nonsense. So he's decided that being emperor is not that attractive. All the fun, all the sensual pleasures, all the power and privileges of an emperor are nothing compared to the joy and the bliss he experienced from investigating Buddha Dharma. So he really had some significant attainment for him to be able to realize that. And also, it's a clear indication that his blessings were so tremendous that the advantages of being emperor were no longer as satisfying to him. Meaning he's far richer, has far more blessings than that of an emperor. That's why he said, big deal. And so, is that where we are right now, Xin? Okay. Let's continue then. Anyone has any questions? Okay.
With such a thought, he gathered all the civil and military officials. He announced to all the civil and military officials that he wanted to leave the home life and become a monk. He won't be an emperor anymore.
这个文武百官一听他要做僧人，就都跪在他的面前来请求。
Once the civil and military officials heard that he wanted to become a monk, they all kneeled in front of him to beg.
他不要推辞皇帝的这种地位，还请他做皇帝。
They begged him to not resign from his position. They begged him to continue as emperor.
百官请他做皇帝，他就向这个百官来推辞做皇帝。
Since all the officials asked him to be the emperor, he then refused.
做皇帝，这时候这一些个文武百官就都痛哭流涕的，就是请他做皇帝。
So all the civil and military officials cried their eyes out to ask him to be the emperor.
在这个时候，他说可以，你们如果一定请我做皇帝，我有3个条件。
At that time, he said, "Okay, if you really must have me as the emperor, I have 3 conditions."
你们要依照我这3个条件呢，我就不出家。
If you can follow my 3 conditions, then I will not leave the home life.
只要不依照我这3个条件，我一定就出家做皇帝，做僧人，不做皇帝。
But if you cannot follow these 3 conditions, then I must leave the home life and be a monk. I will not be the emperor anymore.
这个文武百官说3个条件，什么条件？你讲一讲啦。
These civil and military officials said, "These 3 conditions, what are they? Please tell us."
小国王说：“我第1个条件，凡是俺们的国家之内，在我们这个我所管的这个国境之内。”
The emperor of Shippo said, "My first condition is, as long as it's within our country, within the border that's under my reign."
所有的地方，我所管的地方，都要恭敬3宝，供养3宝。
Everywhere under my reign, we must respect the triple jewels, make offerings to the triple jewels.
皈依3宝，所有的老百姓都要这样。
And take refuge with the triple jewels. All commoners need to do so.
可以，这第1个条件，一定依教奉行。皇帝说第2个条件呢，就是请问皇帝这。
The civil and military officials thought about it and said, "This is something we can do. This is okay."
这个第2个条件，第2个条件。
The first condition, We will follow the teaching. Then the emperor said, the second condition.
试看我所管的这个境内。
They asked the emperor about the second condition. The second condition is
老百姓都要受五戒，修十善。
all the commoners within the borders under my reign should take the 5 precepts and practice the 10 good deeds.
五戒，十善呢，就是不杀生、不偷盗、不邪淫、不贪、不嗔、不痴。
The 5 precepts and the 10 good deeds are no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no greed, no hatred, no stupidity.
不须臾、不妄言、不恶口、不咬舌，这个不做这种十恶，变成十善。
No frivolous speech, no lying, no harsh speech, no divisive speech, to not do these 10 evil deeds, and to do the 10 good deeds.
在我所管的老百姓都要受五戒，行十善。
The commoners under my rule should all take the 5 precepts and do the 10 good deeds.
也就是啊，通通都断宰杀，咱们全国都要吃斋，不吃肉。
That means all of them should stop killing. The whole country should become vegetarians and stop eating meat.
你看这位法师度他他母亲不吃肉，现在又度的这个徒弟，这国王的徒弟全国。
You see, this Dharma master crossed his mother to not eat meat. Now he also crossed over his emperor's disciples.
我的人都影响了不吃肉，他这个国王的徒弟这么样的一要求这个文武百官，这个。
The whole country was influenced to not eat meat. Regarding the emperor's disciples' request, the civil and military officials said,
条件我们也可以接受，也可以。第二个条件没有问题啦。
we can accept this condition as well. This is okay. Then there's no problem with the second condition.
我请问这个第三个条件是什么呢？
What is the third condition?
第三个条件，把仓库里边所有的这个财宝都拿出来呀，赈济这一些个平民。
The third condition is to take out all the treasures from the warehouse to aid the poor people.
赈济这个有病的人呐、穷人呐、所有的这些个鳏寡孤独啊，这个善给他们。
To aid the sick, the poor, the widowers, the widows, orphans, and the bereaved parents, just distribute to them.
有官，老二无妻有官，老年人呢没有太太，这个有个官府，也很苦的。
The elder who has lost a wife is called widower. This is a lot of suffering.
老而无子越独，老年的人呢没有儿子了，这叫子独妇，也是很苦。
The elder who has lost children is called the bereaved parent. This is also a lot of suffering.
有儿无父越孤，小孩子的时候就没有父亲了，这叫孤儿，这孤儿也很苦。
The young child who lost the father is called the orphan. The orphan suffers a lot as well.
老而无夫越寡，年老的女人没有丈夫了，这叫一个寡妇。那么年轻的要没有丈夫，这也是寡妇。
An older woman who lost their husband is called a widow. A young woman who lost her husband is also called a widow.
那么，年轻的人没有了太太呢，也叫官夫，年轻的官夫，也不是一定说是老了才叫这个孟子呢。
A young man who lost his wife is also called a widower, a young widower. They don't have to be old to be a widowers or widows. Mencius said the definitions at the time. An elder who lost his wife is called a widower. An elder who lost her husband is called a widow. A young child who is fatherless is called an orphan. An elder who is childless is called a bereaved parent.
他这个老啊，他要不是30岁以后怎么样？他认为是老。
He is probably over 30 years old, so that's not very old.
这4种的人呢，都要用这国家的财宝来帮助他们，维持他们的生活。
These 4 types of people, we should use the government's treasure to help them to sustain their lives.
这个呢，文武百官一听这第3个条件，说那也好啊，这第3。
Once the civil and military officials heard this 3rd condition, they said, "This is good as well."
条件我们也都答应了，没有问题。所以啊，这是第3个，这个答应。所以这个舍头国王呢，越做皇帝。
This 3rd condition, we can agree with you as well. It's no problem. So the emperor of Shippo continued to be the emperor.
就做皇帝呀，他就给这个师傅造一个庙，精神。
He continued to be the emperor and built a temple for his master. Built a temple. Continue.
他说：“给我师傅造这个精舍，一定要我自己去给做工。”
He said, "To build this temple for my master, I myself must work on the construction."
Okay, can we stop for a moment? Let's go back to, where were we?
202.
Oh, that's a lot of stuff. Do we have enough time? Any questions or comments so far? Okay, so the emperor wanted to become a monk. So he gathered all his officials, and both military and civil. And he said, I want to quit. I want to be a monk. Being an emperor is not that interesting to me anymore. And so, of course, the court officials were tried to stop him, knelt in front of him, and cried and say, "Please don't leave. Don't leave us. You have to be emperor." And he says, "No, I really want to be a monk. I don't want to be an emperor anymore." And because of the official sincerity, he says, if you want me to stick around, I have 3 conditions. These are necessary for me to find renewed interest in becoming an emperor again. So he said, okay, so what are those 3 conditions? Okay, the conditions is that, number 1, in our country, we must respect a triple jewel, make offerings triple jewels. Okay, and take refuge in triple jewel. So all the people in the Shebo will have to become Buddhists. No exceptions. What do you think? Does it make sense? Everyone has to be Buddhist? He means well. He wants everyone to become Buddhist because that's how they will end the sufferings a lot sooner. But is it really practical to force everyone to be Buddhist? Okay. And then you're all Buddhists. The all Buddhists then. Probably not a bad thing, but probably not possible. Okay, you don't want to force a religion on people. Religion is a personal choice. You don't want to force people to become Buddhists. Even though it's good for you, we can't force it upon you. So clearly, this emperor didn't really understand how Buddhism is propagated. He overzealous towards his master. Okay, there's no need for this. Well, okay, so he said all Buddhists, and back then, it's the officials who decide everything for the country. So the lay people, the commoners, have no choices. So it's perfectly acceptable to the court officials. It's possible, I guess. So that's what they said. Yes, we can do this. We can tell, because we are noblemen, nobility, so we can tell our servants, our serfs, that they should become Buddhists. That's not a problem. And of course, we can bribe them. We can lower their taxes a little bit, okay, and so forth. Yes, it's very doable. Second condition, it says they should take the 5 precepts and practice the 10 good deeds. What is the difference between the 5 precepts and the 10 good deeds? Yuan Texuni, what's the difference between the 5 precepts and the 10 good deeds? You asked me 2 questions last night. Now I do you the favor, I return the favor. Let me ask you 1 question. that has two parts. What are the 5 precepts? What are the 10 good deeds? What's the difference? They are the basic Buddhist concepts. You want to know what enlightened people do after, what's the real cultivation after you become enlightened, okay? Before that, you better know what the 5 precepts are and the 10 good deeds and what's the difference.
I just now remembered about the 5 precepts, but I don't know any idea about the 10 good deeds.
Okay, the other Sunims can help you out. This is a Korean matter now. It's a matter of national pride. Jung-in, to the rescue. Yes. 3.
5개는 불살생, 불투도, 불삼,
Yeah,
불망어.
he's cheating. He's Googling it.
Yes, Master. 그리고 10선은 그 5개에 더해서 불양설, 불기여, 불탐욕, 부진해, 불사견입니다. 살아있는 것을 죽이지 않고, 그 다음에 재물을 훔치지 않으며, 그 다음에 음란한 짓을 저지르지 않고, 거짓말을 하지 않고, 그 다음에 남을 괴롭히거나 나쁜 말을 하지 않는다. 이게 이제 5개이고요. 그 다음에 10선은 이간질을 하지 않으며, 진실 없는 교묘하고 꾸미는 말을 하지 않고, 그 다음 탐내어 그치질 모르는 욕심을 부리지 않으며, 성내지 않고, 그리고 그릇된 견해를 일으키지 않음이 10선입니다.
We don't have all night.
Yes, Master.
So the 10 things, first 5 with 5 precept is no killing, no stealing, no deviant sexual act, and do not lie, and do not do evil things or say the bad things. And the other 5 is you don't talk about other people's, you don't try to trick other people. Say the 2 things in one mouth. And then the 7th one is do not say things that there's no truth. And then number 8 is no greed. Number 9 is no anger. Number 10 is not having deviant views. I try my best, Master, forgive me.
Okay. Shorty, what do you think? He's going to say, I agree. Don't you dare.
Well, 5 precepts is no killing, no stealing, and no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no taking intoxicants. And then the 10 precepts is
Good deeds, not precepts. 10 good deeds.
good deeds is no harsh language and no craving, and I don't know.
You don't know. How long have you been a nun now? You don't know what the 10 good deeds are? Okay, so juiciness, alcohol, what do you think? She looked it up for sure. She has, I have all the time in the world now.
마스터께서 저희한테 여쭤본 것을 제가 이해한 바로는 5개와 10선의 차이를 여쭤보신 것 같은데 5개는 반드시 지켜야만 하는 것이고 10선은 권장할 만한 것, 그러니까 하기를 권하는 것으로 이해하고 있습니다. 그래서 만약에 계를 지키지 못한다면 그만큼의 응당하는 어떤 그 죄보가 있고 10선 같은 경우는 그만큼까지는 아니지만 뭔가 복이 감하는 그런 걸로 이해를 하고 있습니다.
I think, Master, you asked about the difference between 5 precepts and 10 good deeds. So the difference is 5 precept is you must obey, you must keep this 5 precept. If you break the precepts, there will be consequences, such as you will commit offense. For 10 good deeds, these are the act that recommended, advised to do it. And then, of course, there's a consequences not keeping this 10 good deeds. It is that maybe decreasing blessings.
Okay, let me explain to you. Okay. You see, most monks and nuns don't understand these 5 precepts and 10 good deeds. Those are fundamental things we're supposed to teach our followers. Whether Buddhists or non-Buddhists, they're supposed to know these things. You're supposed to teach them these things. We don't simply just do ceremonies. We need to advise them on how to live their lives. Okay? So the 5 precepts are the fundamental rules of purity in Buddhism. And if you keep them, the advantages are they're taught to us in order for us to retain this human body. If you keep the 5 precepts and you cannot get out of the wheel reincarnation, you will come back as a human being after this. So all you have to do is keep the 5 precepts, you keep on coming back as human being. Is it clear? This is why we taught the 5 precepts, because we remember Buddhism is to teach you how to avoid falling to 3 lower realms. You fall into the animal realm, you fall to hungry ghosts, you fall to the hells. It's a lot of suffering for a long, long time. And that's why the Buddhist wisdom is that avoid falling. And the next question, how do I avoid falling? You avoid falling by keeping the 5 precepts. You guarantee the human body. Is that clear? So this is why it's fundamental to our Buddhist practices is that we avoid falling. That's why the 5 precepts is one sure way for us to avoid falling. We come back to human beings and we have a chance to continue to cultivate. Very important. This is why we encourage people to take the 5 precepts. However, what are the 10 good deeds? The 10 good deeds are things that are taught to the people in order for them to ascend to the heavens. If you want to be born to the heavens, and people often ask me this, I met many like Hindus, many, shall we say, Catholics, okay, who says, I would like to be my God. I would like to go to be with Vishnu. I'd love to be born to the heavens. Can you imagine, long time ago, this guy at the car rental company, and I used to go rent every weekend to drive to San Jose from Los Angeles to teach chant meditation. And cheap car rental. And the guy is he's Indian. He looked at me and said, "You a monk?" I said, "Yeah." So I say, "Namaste." I said, "Oh, namaste." So he says, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." He said, "How can I be with Vishnu? This is my dream, is to be with Vishnu." So he said, "You asking me?" I said, "Yeah. No one told me." So I said, "Oh, well, I don't know, too long," and so forth. Well, anyway, so now I thought back and said, I should have told him about the 10 good deeds. 10 good deeds are what you should practice in order to be born to the heavens. You want to go to the heavens, you practice 10 good deeds. You too, go ahead.
From Lyo, I received all 5 precepts last time Master was in Korea. Afterward, I realized that I lied 3 times as long as I could recall. All of them were while I make excuses to make people believe that I have good intentions so I could look better. The problem is that I realized that I do this with strong habit energy. I realized that from a child, I habitually lied to my mother so I would not hurt her feelings. Problem is that now I don't even realize right away that I lied. In this case, should I give up the precept of 不打妄语 until I throw away this bad habit and can get the precept again when I'm confident that I can keep this precept?
No, don't give it away. It doesn't hurt to lie a little. Okay, you receive the training, right? And when you take the 5 precepts, as far as the lying precept goes, you're supposed to, when you take the precept, learn that you know enough so that you can not commit the unrepentable part of the precept. So that you lie small lies like that in order to impress people, in order to, let's say, I hate to say this, to sell to your mother a car with a cracked engine. Okay? People have to do that to make a living. Okay? And so all you have to do is go to your church and repent to your pastor. I mean, go to your temple and repent to your monk and nuns. It's called 对手 忏悔 đối thủ sám hối, or face-to-face repentance. Okay, then you be erased. So for you, for Lyo, for example, me, now you know why we have nicknames. You new people would not know who Lyo is. Only insiders know each other. You newcomers say, "Oh, who's Lyo? Lyo?" We are not telling. So all Lyo has to do is come to the temple and repent to the monks and nuns there. Okay, at least those who understand how to do the face-to-face repentance, and then it should be fine. Okay, and the next time lie again, or go and repent again until you're tired of repenting. You say, "I'm not going to lie anymore." Okay, this is too much work. When you take precepts, there are great advantages. Great advantages are that when you take precepts, when you don't violate precepts, you're generating a lot of blessings. Blessings come when you do nothing. So 24 hours a day, you do nothing, you accrue precepts, you accrue blessings. And when you lie once, okay, you create offenses, but once out of, and the rest of the time you're getting blessings. So it's very advantageous to take precepts, by the way, as long as you don't commit the unrepentable part of the offenses. That's how I teach my students. Okay? It's advantageous. Otherwise, we wouldn't teach you. If we teach you so that to give you trouble and to only give you a lot of afflictions and trouble, then it's self-defeating. No one's going to take them. We encourage you to take them because it's very advantageous. You do it right. All right? Good question. This girl asked tough questions. I hope that you Sunims and monks and nuns are taking advantage of this and learn how to address questions from such people. See, they're newcomers. especially young generation, they have a lot of questions. They doubt, they question everything. They say, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why are you doing that? Okay, and you better be prepared to answer them. Because these are fundamental knowledge. This is the foundation of Buddhist teachings, Buddhist lives. You don't even know about them. How are you going to lead them? You don't even know this. You probably cannot teach them Chan either. Most likely. These are fundamental knowledge. Okay? So the 10 precepts are basically the 5 precepts plus 3 more. No greed, no anger, no stupidity. So that's why it generates even more blessings when you practice the 10 good deeds, so that you have blessings reborn to the heavens. Human realm, lower level blessings. Heavens, higher level blessings. That's why. Is it clear? So there are different purposes. And back then, when there's no Buddhism, there's no Sangha, so you cannot become Buddhist. So the sages would teach you about the 10 good deeds. Okay? The non-Buddhist sages say, okay, don't lie, don't steal, don't kill, and so forth. And those are the 10 good deeds. Okay? You only keep the 7 good deeds, then you're reborn in the human realm again. So it's similar. Does it help? Yes. 9.
A Di Đà Phật, thưa thầy, we already stupid, so how do I know that I'm not stupid when I cannot keep that precept then? I mean that good deed then.
Then what? The last 2 words I couldn't hear.
How do I keep the no precept, no stupid? You say that the 3 of them.
The no stupidity precept?
Yes.
Don't be stupid. What is not to understand about don't be stupid? Stupid, one of the things is cause and effect. You know? Don't do things that will, you have to be responsible for your actions, your causes. Plan the causes and you reap the effects. Okay? And how do you not stop being stupid when you're really stupid? Okay? Then the Buddhist teaching is you learn about the 12 conditioned links. Okay? And you want to avoid doing stupid things is too much to explain. You go to the temple, you follow along things, you won't do a lot of stupid things. How's that? And you see people like Jumi, who's not here tonight, who's probably at home sleeping or something. You don't. You follow along others. Follow along the Great Assembly. Okay, and that's how you refrain yourself from doing stupid things. Okay, follow people who have wisdom. Instead of following yourself, because you are stupid. That's why you shouldn't trust yourself. Wei Mao.
Okay. Well, Heidi already asked, so I'm going to ask the other part. What about greed and no anger and no greed? We automatically get angry and greed. I see the fruit on the altar and automatically wanted to eat it. I would like to repent for that too, Master. So how do we do that? It always comes up.
Are you our disciple or you, Master YongHua's disciple?
Master, you introduced me to Master YongHua. You sent me to the temples. You taught me about Venerable Hongshu. You said we should go to make offer to him.
I said that? Okay,
Yes,
take it
you were
back.
going through the chant book. That's how I learned about Venerable Heng Shi.
Oh,
And you told me about the Long Beach temple, so I went over there.
so it's my fault now? Can I change my mind? Okay, blame it on me. For how about anger and stupidity, anger and greed? Just don't be angry, don't be greedy. What's so difficult? Ask Malcolm right there. He said, how don't you become angry? How don't you become greedy? He can drive by Krispy Kreme donuts, and he says, "Oh no, I'm not going in there." Even though I know I get some free donuts right now, right? They have a special promotion. No? Did you guys know that you can get free Krispy Kreme donuts right now? You didn't? Where have you been? What is the matter with you guys? How come I know about all these great deals and you don't? Daniel, you must know that that we can get free donuts throughout the summer. There's no hurry. One free donut per person. No one's impressed. You Los Angeles people are just so boring. Anyway, no greedy, just don't be greedy. Be more content with what you have. Huh? Don't be angry, have more compassion. When you're angry, you're punishing others. You have to stop being angry because you're hurting others. Okay? You're not clear? Go to those people I send you. They explain them to you, hopefully. Okay, so the 10 good deeds, okay, those are the general information you need to have eventually when you develop your own, followings, and you can find out more. How's that? And so these things they explain the good deeds. Okay, so we say the commoners. Can we finish this? The commoners under my rule need to get 5 precepts and practice 10 good deeds. Okay, and and it means that the whole country should become vegetarian and stop eating meat. No. Again, you take the 5 precepts, you can eat meat all you want. You can eat all the lobsters, all the beluga whale, caviars, and so forth. There's no problem. Puff fish, how's that? Huh? Okay, but this guy is a little bit overzealous. He says, you take the precepts and you cannot eat meat. And this is the problem I have. This guy is a little bit confused, but can you imagine a world, what's going to happen to great companies like Domino's Pizza when there's no more pizza with pepperoni on it? How do they make a living? Pepperoni pizza is #1 sales. That's their biggest selling thing. You're going to destroy a lot of business. A lot of chefs will go out of business. Xian Tong's nephew will go out of business. He has a Hawaii barbecue somewhere here in San Francisco. He's going to go out of business. How could we? Wei Mao.
Master, I would have imagined that this world, as described, is like the song Imagine by John Lennon.
John Lennon.
Yeah.
Imagine there's no heaven. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. So anyway, no more seafood. Oh my God. There's no seafood, no meat. How can we drink wine or beer? You're destroying a lot of industries. And clearly, a lot of these officials, their family has no such businesses like making wine, making beer, making soju, excuse me. I get confused alcohol with the Sunim's name. Excuse me, forgive me. Vodka and all those things. But my God, you're destroying a lot of industries, in particular, all these great restaurants, Michelin restaurants, so forth. Okay, so Master Shua explained he taught his mother not to eat meat. His master taught his meat. Now his master also got him to get his countrymen not to eat meat. That's too much. Okay. It makes sense, but that's too much. I mean, they're people, let them live a little. Jesus Christ. I mean, so the whole country did not eat meat. This is excessive. It's too much. And the military official, no problem. We agree to that too. And then third condition. Give away all the money to the orphans, to the bereaved, to the bereaved orphans, to the guafu, widowers. Okay, and this is hard to believe they agree to it. Okay, because they're officials. They have a lot of vested interests in being officials because they get richer and richer by the day. Okay, if I were the officials, I would say, please go, stop being emperor. We elect another emperor among ourselves. It's more likely of an outcome. Agree, disagree? Huh? I mean, these noblemen have a lot of wives and girlfriends and castles and a lot of children. It's very expensive to raise children. So, but anyway, they agree to that too. What a beautiful country, This would be, for me, a place I'd like to travel and take a look. Maybe retire there. Okay, ideal world. Okay, so it's hard to believe that such officials would agree to it because they're depleting their wealth and they will never be able to recover. That's too much. And they still agree. And this is what's the amazing part of the story, because I find it hard to believe that the official would agree to it. They said, okay, all you should become Buddhists. All you should take the 5 precepts. Easy, right? Because they have to do, don't have to do much. But for them to, to reach you into the pocket and, here's food for your mother. Here's food for your children. Here's food for your, poor uncle. My God, I mean, this is when the buck stops, at the emperor's foot. You say, we can't be party to this madness, this nonsense. So, they agree. Beautiful, these people. There was a different times. I know I'm being cynical and so forth, but clearly, it really happened, okay? These stories are true at different times, okay? It's interesting. Lives used to be so much different than today. So for us, it's hard to believe. Wei Mountain.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
If such country did existed, could that be considered today as a totalitarian government, as they impose their own rule over the people? Instead of the people living how they want to live they are imposing their own rule on towards their own subjects. That's my perception, but I'm wrong, I know, but that's what I was thinking.
What did I just tell you? I just told you that this country, in this particular country, in these particular times, what did I tell you? The commoners are slaves, are sheeps. They do what they're told. It's not like right now, 21st century. This is a long, long time ago in India, for God's sake. You understand? These people, the commoners, are very poor, and they're basically a hand-to-mouth existence. So for them to become Buddhists is not a big deal. So what? Okay? And it's to their advantage to stay in the country where they deplete their treasuries to give money to you. Can you see that? So that's why these people, it's advantageous to them. And the times are the times where you clearly haven't seen that many old movies, night movies, huh? Where have you been? What kind of movies do you watch? Have you watched movies like in Europe where there's knights in shining armor, Arthurs and so forth? Robin Hood, all those things? Where have you been, man? And that's how they used to live, okay? It's a hand-to-mouth existence. They're very poor, and they're oppressed. And everything, all the power and the wealth are in the hands of the nobilities and the kings. That's it. When you are not in that thing, whether you're in Japan or Vietnam or whatever, or wherever, you basically are slaves. You have no saying over your lives. Those were the times. Those were the days, my friend. And we thought it never end until the 21st century. Does it help? Okay, so anyway, so he continued to be emperor. So sorry it's taking so long. Okay, we have to stop here tonight. Thank you all for coming. We'll continue tomorrow. Good night.